In this video, I will walk you through my step-by-step financial plan to show you how to use your money to create a life and future you will love. By the end of this video, you will know how to optimize your cash flow so that your spending aligns with your values, your priorities, and your life goals. And you will have a clear plan for how to balance living in the present with creating or planning the future that you want for yourself and your family. If you are new here, my name is Phil. I am a former partner in one of Australia's leading stockbroking and financial planning firms, and I've been passionate about teaching and coaching the financial basics for over 30 years. In fact, since my grandma taught me to budget when I was just 18 years old using physical glass jars and physical money. And on this channel, we discuss all things personal finance. So let's start with step number one. Now you can see on the screen here is my financial cascade. This is a framework that I've developed and used through 35 years of financial coaching. This is a framework that I use with all of my clients to help them put together a financial plan for their lives. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this today, but if you would like a copy of it, then check out the link in the description below where there is not only a copy of the image you see there, but also a training that goes with it. So check that out in the link. So let's start with step number one and think about your bank account, your personal bank account as the first pool. We need to make sure that we've got more money coming into this account than expenses going out so that that pool can fill up and ultimately start to overflow. If we can't get this right, then there's no overflow, and all the other things that we want to do throughout this cascade and throughout our life can never happen because we never get past that first stage of, is there more income coming in than expenses going out? So step number one, we want to harness your cash flow so that you have some surplus cash flow. So the savings, if you think about this, the surplus cash flow is water in your financial cascade. So how do we calculate your surplus cash flow? Well, simply put, surplus cash flow equals your total income minus your core expenses. Okay, so let's have a look at a really quick example. Here is Emma. Emma is 30 years old and her total monthly income is $7,200. So important to understand that this is $7,200 after tax. This is money she gets in the hand, money that she gets to keep. Now, her core expenses are $5,000 per month. So these are her core expenses. Now you might be wondering, well, what's a core expense? Well, a core expense is things like the rent, the mortgage, utilities, mobile phone or cell phone, a car and transport, groceries, insurances, and debt repayments. Now, there's not a lot of fun built in there. I understand that, but these are her core expenses that she has to pay every single month. Now, if we look at this then, this leaves her with $2,200 of surplus cash flow per month. And with this surplus cash flow, she has the choice of how she's going to spend this money. So she could either save it, she could spend it on lifestyle expenses, she could invest it, or she could use it to pay off debt. The important thing to note here is that she gets to decide how this money is spent. And this is why it is her surplus cash flow. So let's have a look at step number two. Now, step number two is about purposely managing your cash flow. Having some kind of money management system or budget in place so that you can purposely and intentionally manage your money. Now, there's two really big reasons why we want to do this. The first one is to make sure that we always have the money set aside for those core expenses so that when those core expenses turn up, when the bills turn up, when the debt repayments turn up, the money is just there ready to go. No juggling, no robbing Peter to pay Paul, no stress. The money is just there. And the second reason that we want to be able to manage our cash flow is so that we can ensure that that potential cash flow surplus actually becomes a reality so that we do have that, in the case of Emma, that $2,200 left over every single month. So step number three is being prepared for the unexpected expenses and emergencies that will come our way. 35 years of financial coaching experience have taught me that 10 to 15% of your expenses each year will be unexpected expenses. These are things like the hot water system springing a leak, the dog getting sick, the car breaking down. things that we could not predict, but we need to make sure that we've got money set aside for. And this is why we have a rainy day fund to cover these things, to provide us with a buffer. We're not having to dip into the money we've got set aside for our core expenses. We have a buffer there for the unexpected. And this buffer should ideally be somewhere around the 1 month worth of your household or your core household expenses. So in the case of Emma, this would be around $5,000 sitting in a high interest savings account there for the just in case scenario. So if we go back to Emma's situation here, you can see that she has a potential surplus of $2,200 per month. Now what this means is that if Emma's aiming to have $5,000 in her rainy day fund, it's probably going to take her about 2.3 months to save up that rainy day fund. And this is part of a really good financial plan, is that you can predictably move from one pool to the next and know exactly how long it's going to take you to get to those big life goals. So if we move to step number 4, now step number 4 is all about eliminating high interest debt. So this is things like credit cards, personal loans, car loans, anything with an interest rate above about 6 or 7%, we should absolutely be trying to get rid of as quickly as possible. Now I have other videos where we talk about debt elimination, but for now, let's just say that the key to paying off debt is to pay the minimum in all your debts and focus all your surplus cash flow at one debt at a time. Now, please also note that this is step 4 in the cascade. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when it comes to paying off debt is that they ignore putting money aside for their future expenses. They ignore having a rainy day fund and they try to get straight to paying off debt. And the problem with doing things that way is that when you pay all your money off debt, as soon as some big bill turns up or some unexpected expense turns up, you've got nowhere to go but to put it back on the debt, which can keep us stuck in a very frustrating cycle. So paying off debt has to be step number 4. Now, over the years, my clients have paid off over $18 million in debt. In fact, over the last 7 years, my clients have paid off $18 million in high interest debt simply by following this process. It works, so please trust that it needs to be step number 4, not step number 1, 2, or 3. Okay, now let's just say that Emma had $10,000 in credit card debt. You can see here that if we say, okay, well, we've got $2,200 in potential cash flow surplus, it's going to take us there for about 4.5 months to get rid of that debt by using all our potential surplus and throwing it off our credit card debt. And because we've got our known expenses covered, because we're managing our money in step number 2, and because we've got a buffer in place, it means that big bills or unexpected expenses aren't going to upset the apple cart and sort of throw us off course. At this point, all surplus cash flow can stay off our debt and therefore it's not going to come back. Step number 5 is to protect yourself against big life events. So this is things like you get sick or injured and you can't work, or perhaps you lose your job, or perhaps you need to take time off to care for a loved one. I've seen these things happen so many times, even to young people. So having a cash reserve is super important. Now, ideally, you would have a cash reserve that is 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, of your core expenses. So for Emma, this would mean somewhere between $15,000 and $30,000. And please note that you can build this over time. So you'll see here, I put a bracket over these last 5 or 6 steps in our cascade, meaning they can happen all at the same time. So for instance, you might say, look, I've got $10,000 in my cash reserve. I want to get to 30, but over the next few months, I'm only going to put half of my monthly surplus in there and the other half can go towards investing or life goals or something like that. So at this point, you can sort of take your foot off the pedal a bit, but you still need to be building that cash reserve towards $15,000 to $30,000 in Emma's situation. So 3 to 6 months worth of your core expenses. Now for Emma, if she has a surplus of $2,200 per month, then it means it's probably going to take her somewhere between 7 and 14 months to get her cash reserve in place. Now the exciting thing about this is once we get to step 5, you have your foundation in place. You've built your foundation. We've got our known expenses covered in step number 2. Firstly, our income is greater than expenses, so we are producing surplus every month. Secondly, we have some kind of money management system. It means we've got our known expenses covered. Step 3, we've got our unexpected expenses covered. So if the dog does get sick, it's not a stress. Step number 4, we have then eliminated all our high interest debts. Step number 5, we've now turned our rainy day fund into a cash reserve so that if life events occur, the pressure is off. We don't have to immediately go and find another job or get back to work even though we're still sick or injured. We have a cash reserve that gives us some time to work things through. So let's now have a look at life goals. Now, this is really important. When we sat down and had a chat to Emma, she had 3 really big life goals. The first one was to buy a home, as most young people have. The cost would be around $800,000, which means that if she wanted a 20% deposit, she's going to need about $160,000, which I know is a bit eye-watering. The purchase costs are about 5%, which means that her total savings goal for a property would be around $200,000. Now, really important thing to point out here, having been a financial advisor and a financial coach for over 30 years, the first step to making your life goals a reality is to write it down and to work out, well, how much? What is that dollar figure I need to work? I need to have. What is it I need to work towards? Because so many people have these nice thoughts. Oh, wouldn't it be nice to go on a holiday? Wouldn't it be nice to buy a house? But they don't have any clear plan to make it happen. And the first step to making it a reality is writing it down and putting a dollar figure against it. Now, if we look at a second goal, it was 3 months in Europe. She wants to go three months in Europe over the summer. The timeline is to ideally do this in 2 years' time. The total cost for flights, accommodation, transport, activities, food, insurances, etc., was going to be around $25,000. So that is her second goal. So let's have a look at goal number 3. And for Emma, this is to be able to retire at 60, or at least to be in a position to be able to retire at 60. Now, to work this out, she said, well, I think I'm going to need about $100,000 per year. There's a very simple rule in the finance world that's called the 4% rule. And that means if you just times how much you need at retirement by 25, that is going to give you the ideal investment pool of money you need. So basically taking 4% of $2.5 million is going to give you $100,000 per year. So that's a very simple sum. Now we have these goals worked out. The key is, well, how do we work towards these? So let's look at buying a home. We know that it's going to cost us, well, we need about $200,000. The goal, $200,000 timeline. Ideally, Emma would like to be able to buy this in 8 years' time. Her monthly surplus is $2,200, which means that she's going to have to be able to save about $2,083 per month. Now, of course, that's not factoring in interest she might earn on a bank account. And given that it's a longer term goal, 8 years, once you get beyond about 7 or 8 years, you're actually better off thinking about, well, do I actually invest this money rather than just sticking it in a bank account where inflation will obviously wear away at the value of that money? Am I better off investing it? And if that's the case, she'd probably end up with getting to this $200,000 a lot faster. But of course, we're keeping it simple here. So that's goal number 1. We can see here that it's going to take her she's going to be putting aside $2,083 per month if she wants to get to a $200,000 in 8 years' time. If we have a look at Europe, we want to be able to do this in 2 years. The cost is going to be about $25,000. Monthly surplus is $2,200. Now, we're not factoring in the house here at this stage. We're just looking at these goals independently. To get to $25,000 in 24 months, we need to be saving $1,041. Or if we just put the entire $2,200 per month in towards this savings account towards Europe, you can see that she'd get there in 11.3 months. So very doable for her. She's certainly got the cash flow capacity to make that happen. But of course, that is at the exclusion of other goals. So let's have a look at her next goal, and that is retiring at age 60. Now, we've already worked out that she needs about $2.5 million in 30 years' time. Let's assume, of course, that she's investing this money in the share market or property or something like that. What this means is at a 9% return per annum, she's going to need to save $1,365 per month, which is, again, very doable given her current potential cash flow surplus is $2,200 per month. Now, this, of course, is assuming that Emma is the only one contributing towards her financial future. If you're elsewhere in the world, you would have 401ks or pension funds, and here in Australia, we've got superannuation funds, which also contribute towards our retirement savings. So if we look at Emma, who is in Australia, you can see here that based on her starting income at the moment of about $100,000, over 30 years with her employer contributing 12% to her superannuation fund, that superannuation fund is going to contribute $1.84 million to that $2.5 million, which suddenly makes the task so much easier for Emma. So if we look at it now, Emma actually only now needs to find $660,000. So assuming, again, a 9% return over 30 years, she actually only needs to contribute $361 per month herself, which again is far more doable. So let's have a look at some of the key steps we need to take to make sure our life goals become a reality. The first one is you need to get clear on what those goals are to start with. What is it that I really want to achieve in my life? Sitting there hoping that things will happen is not enough. You need to get clear and say, this is a goal, write it down, and then we need to work out, well, how much is that goal going to cost us? What is the cost as best as you can estimate? Then we need to go, when do I want it to happen? So we need to attach a timeline to it. Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years? Is it 30 years? When do we want that goal to happen? And then from there, we can work backwards. We can work back and say, well, what do I need to do today to make that goal a reality? We want to be able to save for short-term goals and invest for long-term goals. So anything that's, say, 3 to 5 years or less, you should be thinking, okay, I am going to put money in the bank to save towards that. But anything beyond that 5 to 7 years, we should really think about investing so that the money can grow at a faster rate and also keep ahead of inflation. And the last thing in it here is just to understand, where are you willing to compromise? This is really important. As you saw when we went through Emma's goals there, we obviously weren't going to be able to do all 3 of them at once. So we have to make a decision about, well, which one is the most important? And this is different for everyone. There is no right or wrong. So let me just finish off with one last thing. And that is, please remember, it is your life. They are your goals and you get to decide. But please be intentional about making it happen. Too many people get 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the track, and they wonder why the things they expected for their life, the things that mattered most never actually happened. And 99% of the time, it's simply because they never created a plan to make it happen. So I hope this has been helpful. If it has, please click the like, please click the subscribe, because that really helps my channel reach more people. And just remember that it's the little habits and strategies that you put in place today that can literally make $1 million difference to your future. And if you would like a copy of my financial roadmap here, please check out the link down below, because there is the roadmap and a training to go with it. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.